Welcome to the next episode of the Austin Bar Association's Council of First. I'm your host, Amanda Arriaga, First Latina Bar President. This podcast is made possible by the Texas Bar Foundation. In today's episode, we talk to Vasu Behara, President of the Board of Directors for Volunteer Legal Services of Central Texas. He also serves as the Deputy Chief Administrative Law Judge for the Texas State Office of Administrative Hearings, SOA, which is the centralized administrative hearing tribunal for the adjudication of contested case hearings in the executive branch of state government. Judge Behara is a clinical professor at the University of Texas School of Law and directs the Judicial Internship Program. He's a graduate of Trinity University, the University of Texas School of Law, and most importantly, McAllen Memorial High School. I'm pleased to have with me today fellow McAllen Mustang, Vasu Behara.
Hey, thanks, Amanda. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Neighbor? Turns out we grew up together. We didn't even know it. It was parallel lives.
Yeah, small. They come together, diverge.
Yeah. So tell me, why did you want to be a lawyer?
Yeah, that was, I didn't have any lawyers in my family. I came from a family of medicine, basically. Both my parents are doctors. My older brothers and my younger brother are both doctors. And so I kind of quickly figured out that med school wasn't going to be in my path after I got weeded out my first year or so. And when I look back on it, I thought about the things that kind of make me get that fire in your belly, things that get you kind of upset. We were talking about it earlier in high school. I was part of the Constitution team. It's called We the People competition. And it's basically kind of like a granulated debate team, but focused on constitutional issues. Mine was focused on like the first couple parts of the Bill of Rights. And so really always started getting interested in I had my first flavor of constitutional law. We won the state competition, got flown up to DC for my senior year of high school. We did the national competition there. At that time, we can fast forward to it later, but Judge Hinojosa was a big part of like a guest judge for us on our competition team. And he knew we were going to DC, and he set us up with a tour of the U.S. Supreme Court. And so we got to do a really cool back end tour, very quiet at the time. It wasn't in session. And then we went back into chambers, and Justice Anton Scalia came out and gave us like a 30-minute speech, not to go one way or the other, but he gave us a speech on, his understanding and his philosophy about, the strict constructionalism versus a living constitution. And I think there were a handful of us out of that group that were fascinated by it, right? And then they all, along with myself, ended up actually in law school together. So those type of experiences are what kind of made me want to go to law school. I knew I wanted to always kind of follow the action, and so I was interested in courtroom experience, what that meant. In undergrad at Trinity, I was a psychology grad, so there's not much you can do with that unless you apply something forward. And but I did a lot of work my junior and senior year. Most of my research stuff was based on juror perceptions, and one thing I did was on saliency factors, on how if you had how jurors might perceive the sentencing phase if they had like to actually hold the weapon versus seeing a picture. And we try to do a lot of different experiments there, a lot of different research. So there was always something driven towards kind of like law, and I didn't know much about lawyering otherwise, but I knew it was something that you can kind of just figure out on your own. So that's kind of how I went into law school, and then just kind of got lucky with a bunch of experiences to get where I'm at.
Well, I bet when you had to tell your family, I'm going to be a lawyer and it's just as good as being a doctor, being able to say, and I saw the Supreme Court and talked to a Supreme Court justice, I bet that was helpful.
Yeah, a little. I don't know. My mom had the dream of like all three of us being doctors, but I think even when I was I always tell her, I got my federal clerkship after law school, super fortunate, and my mom and I moved back to McAllen at that time because I was clerking with Judge Hinojosa and in the federal district court in McAllen, and I was living out back at my house, which was it was good. I got to save some money, and it was, got a lot of the perks you get with getting to do laundry and all that type of stuff. But my mom would always come back and he's like, "You sure you don't want to take the MCAT now?" And I'm like, "No, no, no, I'm done. I'm done. I'm good." But they're no, they're very supportive and proud of what went on after.
And so there's a lot of different ways to be a judge. And you happen to be a judge at SOA, which is not really a traditional thing that one does. But you know this about me. I'm a state government girl. And so I'm very committed to making sure that people feature state government. And this is the judicial arm, basically, of the executive branch. So, how did you become a judge at SOA?
Yeah, it's kind of these type of things which I know we've talked about a little bit, which is networking a bit, but it's kind of nice the state office of administrator hearings, that type of position as an ALJ is like 100% merit based, right? So like that's not some I don't have to one nice thing, you don't have to run for election. But I was always interested in administrative law, and when I worked, fortune was worked to when I really got to work with Judge Karen Crump at the 250th Travis County District Court is basically the first level of judicial review of any administrative proceeding of any administrative appeal, so to speak. And so cases that get appealed and go through judicial review go straight there. And so that's where I got a lot of experience working on cases that came out of SOA, and I got to see the type of work, the diverse style of work you get there. I went into mediation training in around that same time uh, when I was working with Judge Crump, and there was an ALJ in my class of the mediation training at the UT Dispute Resolution Center training, and we had some close friends in the same circles, and I just kept up with her a little bit. I said, just let me know if there's ever an opening. Be kind of interested in what goes on over there. Having the experience working for on the federal district court side, as a kind of a right hand for Judge Hinojosa, and then also having later on, several years later with more experience working for Judge Crump, I kind of knew what it was to, I knew that's where I wanted to be at least, working on that side of the bench to help. And it was just an interesting opportunity that came up. One thing that I also really appreciated about, being going to SOA was that it's a large part legal writing. There's we preside over, the agency presides over what 25,000 hearings a year, but uh, large part about it is we write a well reasoned legal decision after every single case we hear. So getting to flex that writing muscle, that legal writing muscle, was also really attractive to me. But also just I was always interested in state government, like yourself, and this is a really great place to work as far as all the different pieces of state government work coming in, all the different disputes, licensing actions, utilities work, all the different, anything that touches a life of a Texas citizen um, ends up somehow at SOA sometimes. And so, really having a good, diverse work environment is something I was really interested in. And access to justice is always something I've been really interested in, which kind of what you invited me for, and that's really the avenue, a really good place to understand access to justice issues, because most of the folks that come into SOA um, are self-represented. I would say there's a large portion of them, not most, but a large portion of them, and it's really the system is built in a way to allow them to be successfully heard, right? Like not necessarily to win or lose, but to make sure that they get a fair shake to and a contested case hearing. And so that was always interesting to me too, to see how the process is confirms kind of making sure everyone's on a level playing field. The state carries a great amount of weight on these things, and they shouldn't just get the upper hand just because you don't have a lawyer. So we try and make everything real streamlined in a way that you could, where you don't necessarily have to hire an attorney. Like you can present your case on your own behalf and do just as good of a job based on the procedural safeguards that we have in place.
Well, and I'm sure that folks in your office, I don't know if you have to, are always keenly looking at what's happening during the legislative session, because adding more cases to SOA for this purpose, I see come up every session. And there's always this like, oh, well, if we need to give the citizens a voice, so let's send them to SOA.
Yeah.
And so I'm always interested to see, because it's a good idea. What you're describing, it's accessible. People can figure out how to do it, but it becomes a lot of work if you already have a 25,000 caseload a year.
Yeah, when definitely legislative session's a very busy time for us. It's a fun time, as I was always excited by that too. Glad to have a chance to work on that. We welcome all styles of cases and different disputes. I think we're a great place to resolve those, but there are also a lot of styles of disputes that are, probably are more, definitely the Constitution requires those not to be yet. So, all right, we're a state agency, and some of those cases do belong over there at the district court house. But we do get lots of new and different styles of cases all the time, and that's also a fun thing to do. Is reason to work there is it's always something different every day. You get to learn about a different style of case, different type of case, different type of dispute. You get to touch a new area of law, just is brand new, and yeah, it is. Legislative session though was it's always kind of fast and furious.
Well, and I always assume it's a compliment. When they want to give the agency that you work for more to do, it's a compliment because it means that you're doing what you currently do well.
Yeah, no, we always take uh, everyone over there is always very helpful to us, and they look out for us, and I think we work well with everybody there at the during legislative session too. So it's really nice, and it is a compliment because as deputy chief, I help manage about 30 ALJs of various different groups, and they're always welcome to the challenge and roll up their sleeves and try and help. But they're all focused on dispute resolution, right? So it's a fun place to work.
Well, I'm very interested. You are currently in charge of volunteer legal services of Central Texas. Why is VLS so important to you?
Yeah, this has been my board term is actually it went by in a flash. It's pretty much completing itself this term. Um, VLS is Volunteer Legal Services Central Texas. It's just been an organization that's been part of my legal career since I joined, since I came back to Austin after clerking. When I was working at DLA Piper, big global business litigation firm, um, we were doing a lot of really good complex business litigation. But if you really want to, as a young lawyer, you wanted to get yourself into the courtroom, it's probably going to come for pro bono work. And so I always knew I was going to. I had a little bit of a relationship with a lot of folks at TRLA down in the valley when I was working down there, and they had a good relationship at that time with VLS, and so I just kind of knew that this is the place to go to try and find a fun case. And we'd always, always up for the challenge and always up to learn new things. I was really heavily focused on um, federal court cases coming out and coming into work there, and so that was a good opportunity to get out of my comfort zone and get thrown into the kind of wild wild west in the state court world. Um, but I just always kind of knew that lawyers are the only ones that can do this pro bono work, right? Like, there are so many incredible nonprofit organizations in town that do great work, but the only one that those folks can't do legal work, right? They can't do pro bono work, but so we're special in that way, and those cases are tough. You get to learn that just because there's maybe a case involving an indigent client, that getting them to understand like that just doesn't mean that you win, right? There are a lot of cases that I took. A lot of my pro bono cases we lost. We made good law out of it later, but just a great chance to help the community. And as definitely wear your lawyer hat in a special way is why I've always been interested in VLS. And then getting on the board was really a huge honor for me.
So, for lawyers listening who have never participated in VLS because it sounds scary or daunting or like more work when they're already full of work, how can lawyers get involved in VLS either by taking a case or maybe by contributing in other ways?
Yeah, there are many. There's the great thing about VLS and an organization like VLS is there are just so many different opportunities available, right? There's different flavors. There are one-off clinics. I think right now we have. I think we over the year so far we've done about 68 clinics, phone clinics, and I believe something closer to 90 total clinics. So there are opportunities to just do one up, go to a clinic for a couple hours and take in a client, just review that person's problem and help them on that day and be done. There are also opportunities to take a longer, more contested style case where you actually are representing that client and going to court or whatever it is. But we have all the resources available um, to make you successful, whether it's based on the substantive area that you need. We've got guidebooks, we've got all the different resources that you need to succeed in that style of case. We also have mentors available to match you with a certain style of case, whether it's a consumer case, landlord tenant, whatever it is. You're not going to leave you hanging out to dry. And those so there's all these different opportunities that are available, from the kind of minor 1 hour type phone clinic thing to a longer endeavor, which might involve a longer case. Um, and then there's also opportunities to to participate in different ways financially or whatever it is, to donate your time or money. And so we have a great director of pro bono legal services who's now also part of the on the committee for the Austin Bar Association with the pro bono committee, Holly Toops, who really does an amazing job trying to help folks match the right opportunity. Ever have an issue, ever have you're inquiring into some type of pro bono opportunity, she's a great resource and can help you get set up on maybe you don't want to do like a really hard landing on your first case, or you want to start off, with baby steps, and that's totally fine. And we can always make that happen. But, just the diverse range of opportunities, whether it's family law, consumer law, all the different styles of problems that our folks face in our community, there's always different ways to help.
Well, and we'll put in the podcast notes ways that folks can contribute their time or their money, because you don't need to say it. I will say, if you don't have time, VLS will also take your money. So send that too. If you feel guilty that you haven't taken a case, send some money. So, besides being, you're a very busy man, besides being a judge, besides being head of VLS, you're also a clinical professor at UT Law School, and you direct the judicial internship program. Why is that so important to be doing?
Yeah. So the judicial internship itself was a really pivotal kind of jumping point for me in my career. So I had an internship with uh, Judge Hinojosa. I got that through this program called the American Bar Association. At that time, I think it was called the Judicial Internship Opportunity Program. I can't remember what it's called. JIOP, yeah. And it was basically the mission, or the goal was to match law students from kind of diverse backgrounds that aren't typically um, don't typically maybe land or have those opportunities for those type of internships. And so I landed an internship with Judge House at that time, after my first year, after my first year and my first year summer out of law school. Really loved it. Got a chance to really kind of like see what happens behind the bench, and I just thought it was really great environment. You could see everyone's really mission focused, right? Like roll up their sleeves and it's go time. Like, you really want to help and be active, and it's always on. Really fun environment, um, but just a lot of good work being done there. And so uh, that was always an important program to me, just having that opportunity, because it really shaped my career. Later on, because I did a nice job during my internship, I was able to parlay that into a clerkship, which is also something that really benefited my career big time. To have that on your resume, just one thing, but also skills and mindset wise, as what you want to be when you're a professional as a lawyer, to understand where you want to go as a practicing attorney. Um, so then I've been in, I love mentoring students. I love, any, I was probably like the, first one in my family, but also one of the first ones in my group, but also out of my friends group and all the folks I knew to go to law school. So I was always the one answering calls for questions. Can you look over my resume? Can you help me with this personal statement? What do I do with this class? What do I, when they're in law school, what about studying for the bar? Just always trying to be a helpful resource there. And as a clerk, I was always helping supervise different interns during the summers. And then at SOA, I was also at SOA, I was supervising interns through this program at the UT Law School. We would always take several different interns, and so I got a good chance to work with the then director, Mary Crowder, who's been amazing. She was really great to work with. She was retiring, and kind of uh, that's when this opening happened this past semester. So that's kind of like uh, just a perfect storm of things happened, and something that I was really interested in. I thought I could, use my supervising experience as well as my experience just training some of the ALJs at where I work, knowing, kind of with that mentality, like baby judge school type thing. That's what I thought I could bring to the law school. So it's been a great semester. Went off really well. Next semester is shaping up to be really, really amazing. We got like probably 12 different internships across the city. So it's going to be a really fun semester. But I just love working with the students. It's great to have a chance to give back to the law school, which has done, my one of my favorite places to be around, as you know. And so it's just it's kind of luck of the draw type thing for me. It is it's extra work, but I probably would have done it for free. You don't have to tell them that.
We'll cut that part out.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and you're so well rounded that I think you probably give really good advice to the students because you've seen law firms, you've seen judicial branch, you've seen executive branch. Because sometimes it feels like you're supposed to come out of a good law school and go immediately make money by working at a big firm. And so you've had a bunch of different experiences. And so you can now tell the students, pick what you like.
Right. And I always tell everybody it's like, this is easier said than done, right? Because you have to be, um, some folks just really got to focus on paying off their loans or whatever issue it is. But I always tell everyone just follow the action. Um, and, I may have done that, probably to my wife's discomfort sometimes too, jumping around a little bit too often. But like you said, I've did the federal court thing. I've worked in state court. I've done the biggest firm in the world. I've done the smallest type of firm in the world. Solo small firm thing. I worked in house at the Texas Medical Association for a little while too, which was fantastic. Definitely was primarily focused on legislative affairs at that time, government affairs. So that was a lot of fun. Got to work legislative session. But I can always tell folks about the mistakes that you get and you learn from as a young lawyer or as a lawyer just kind of on your own. Um, I've been fortunate to like have like some of the best mentors throughout my career. Always amazing folks, and I won't go too much name dropping, but it's like it's when I look back on it, I'm like, wow, these legends in the legal field just super ultra smart, good natured people who can teach you that what I try and tell our law students, like, yeah, being a lawyer is a job. It's a great job. It can pay really well, but it's really a profession. And so, how do you contribute to the profession? How are you going to aim your career to like advancing the profession? Because when that happens is when things start coming together. You really start helping yourself, but the community and helping people around you. So that's what I try and talk to them about is like some of the mistakes I've made, whether it's workplace environment, right? Because folks don't know, you want to advance your communication skills, interpersonal communication skills, but also out to the court. But then also, how do you continue and push yourself and become like a big player in the profession to really advance and keep everything going? Because you can always fall into a little bit of a rut where you're not super involved and just focused on one thing, and that's great. But you don't want to spread yourself too thin either. But try and give folks a different flavor of all the different opportunities and what might work for them and what might not.
Well, that's why if I see your parents over the holidays, I'm going to tell them lawyers help people too. We just help them with our words, right? With our words and our writing. That's how we help people. Not all of us like blood and sick people and germs all the time. So that's how we choose our paths. So my final question is, what advice would you give to lawyers in Austin who want to get involved but don't know how?
This is probably one of the best spaces is the Austin Bar Association. I mean, when I yes, and these are all just kind of like lucky stories again, but it's like, I wanted to be involved, right? So you stay involved in BLS, but then I also wanted to get involved in the local bar because this is the best place to meet attorneys that are maybe not in your specific area of practice, or maybe they are and you just don't get out of your circle too much. So I joined, it wasn't the first, it was the second class of the AYLA Austin Bar Leadership Academy. And I got to meet an amazing group of folks, various attorneys working in different areas of practice. And they were really helpful. I mean, you realize that like everyone just wants to help each other, right? Like it's not this zero sum game where it's not territorial at any way. They like, hey, how can I give Vasu a case, or how can I help him with something, or maybe maybe he'll know someone who can help me on this issue, or just expanding your network is really important. So that's why I would tell folks is get involved with the bar. There are so many different ways to get involved, and so if you really can't find something's going on, because there should be some type of opportunity that tickles you a little bit and wakes you up. So I would just encourage folks to continue and get involved in legal organizations. I mean, you're always going to have that chance. I was also involved in some nonprofits, Austin Partners in Education, fantastic group in town. Um, helps work with family support services and that type of thing, community and schools. Um, but I also knew that like I needed to continue and advance the profession and work with my professional group. And Austin's a lucky place to be, which is kind of a small group. So I love I've had that chance. I would definitely say get involved with the either AYLA or the Austin Bar. I was also involved in the State Bar as well because you can. There's just all these different types of opportunities out there, and you can always get to meet new people across your community and statewide.
Is there anything else you would like to say to our audience?
No, I appreciate you having me here. I appreciate you having the opportunity to speak about VLS. Our executive director, Elisa De Luna, she's really done an amazing job. She took over like right when COVID hit, and she, maybe she didn't, and nobody can expect that, but she took all the punches with what's going on, and she's really helped shape the organization in a really nice way to set it up for success going forward. I think there are some amazing opportunities there to really help the legal community. And so I just really appreciate you giving me that opportunity to be a kind of quick voice for VLS, because it's one of my favorite organizations. I think it will be to anyone who gets a chance to join it if they haven't already, and for all, and to also say thank you to all of our supporters and volunteers over the years. You can't succeed, can't exist without that participation in the community. And there's a lot of folks who kind of stay quiet and really do a lot of great work. And I won't blast their name out right now, but just want to tell them like we really appreciate all the work that they've done.
Well, I'm so happy to have you here. We've talked before about how the Austin Bar and VLS should be partners on more things. We have been partners sort of throughout the years, and then it's been informal, formal. And so part of this is also to make sure that we keep doing that and that we work together and partner because we should. We have the same ideology, though what we do is a little bit different. But we really all just want to help people.
Right, and so it is like a great. The relationships should coexist, and they do, and they advancing that is really appreciate you taking that to heart because it's there's a folks want to just help, right? I mean, everyone just is in the bar not for really personal reasons, but they just want to be out there and help other folks, and so it's good that there's advancing that partnership.
Well, great. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
And we'll see all of you next time.